Last year, rookie running back Alvin Kamara was an absolute fantasy sensation, especially in PPR leagues. He went late in a lot of drafts and sometimes even went undrafted. So the question this year is, who is this year's Alvin Kamara? Well, we're going to dive deep with every single possible option, and I'm going to give you my top 4 2018 Kamaras. All that and more coming right up. What's going on, fantasy football fans? I'm your host, Hussein the Brain, and you're watching The Couch. What's up? If it's your first time on this channel and you want to crush it in fantasy football, I highly recommend you subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that bell icon so you won't miss anything. Before we get into my top 4 list of who is this year's Alvin Kamara, let's set some criteria. So what is it going to take for a player to qualify as a 2018 Alvin Kamara? Criteria number 1, he has to be a rookie running back, or at the very least, a very young running back that's going to have a breakout year that hasn't played much. So essentially a rookie. Like if Patrick Mahomes, let's say, was a running back, I'd guess that could qualify. I mean, he's basically a rookie. He only played like 1 game. I forget about that. All right, he has to be a rookie. These are strict rules. Number 2, he has to be buried on the depth chart, or at least he's not slated to likely be the starting running back for his team. Criteria number 3, he has to be going later in drafts. No round 1 or round 2 draft picks. Nah, that's not going to count. He has to be somebody who's undervalued, underrated, and going later in drafts. And criteria number 4, he's got to finish as an RB1. So he has to be a top 10 or top 12 running back in the 2018 fantasy football season. What made Kamara so dang good last year, and why did he shock the fantasy world? Let's just do a quick recap of his 2017 campaign. He started out as number 3 on the running back depth chart behind Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram. He was in a good situation. He was on a good offense. He had a good quarterback in Breeze and a really good O-line. I thought the O-line was good, but I think I was a little bit surprised that this O-line worked so much better than I even thought, and I thought they would be pretty good last year. And I think the most important thing was his versatility, his big play ability every time. I literally mean every single time he touched the ball, it could be a home run. It could be 80 yards, 70 yards, and that often did happen, whether it be running the ball or catching the ball. And of course, his pass catching ability. The man was just insane, averaging 5 receptions per game, and he wasn't even playing much in the beginning of the season. So here are 4 really good rookie running backs that we have to rule out because they're being drafted way too early, so they can't be this year's Kamara. Saquon Barkley is going to be the workhorse. He was drafted 2nd overall in the actual NFL draft, and his ADP is around 7th overall in fantasy. He's got Jonathan Stewart there, he's got Wayne Gallman there, but there's really no worries. He is going to be the workhorse, so he's being drafted early in the 1st round, so this guy doesn't fit the criteria. Also, we have Derrius Guice, who is a really talented running back. He's going to be running behind a good offensive line, has some competition, but other than Chris Thompson, I think we expect Guice to be the starter and get a lot of carries and be the goal line back. The guy's really good, but believe it or not, he's being drafted in the 3rd round in fantasy drafts. We also have Rashaad Penny and Sony Michel. Both were drafted in the 1st round of the actual NFL draft, and both are being taken in the 4th round of fantasy drafts. So these 4 guys do not fit the criteria we're looking for. Chase Edmonds was a running back drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, and Mark Walton was drafted by the Bengals, both drafted in the 4th round of the real NFL draft. And I don't see these guys having any impact unless something were to happen to Mixon or David Johnson. They're buried in the depth chart, and I just don't see them being this year's Kamara. It's not going to happen. These guys are more handcuffs or more picks for the future. These 5 guys, these guys do fit the criteria. So we have Edmonds, Walton, and now Nick Chubb, who's actually going in the 9th round in fantasy drafts. That's his ADP. The reason I don't like him much is because I just see it a committee. They have a lot of weapons there. Tyrod Taylor can run the ball there. They have Baker Mayfield behind him. They also have Josh Gordon. They have Jarvis Landry, Corey Coleman. They have the tight end. What's his name? David Njoku. They have Duke Johnson. They have Carlos Hyde. And now they have Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb will eventually get the nod as the starter, but Duke Johnson has to be involved some way. And I think Carlos Hyde is the guy they're going to go with early on in the season, the guy that they can trust. Once Hyde gets injured, or we're like, hey, this guy's kind of lacking, he's kind of underperforming, let's switch it up a little bit, then I see Nick Chubb going and being the starter. But this could be a three-headed monster, an RBBC running back by committee situation, so I'm not going with Nick Chubb. I think his ADP round 9 is actually, that's not that bad for a running back that can have an impact. I guess he does have the upside to get 8, 9, maybe even 10 touchdowns if the Browns are actually a good team this year. Now we have Royce Freeman, who was drafted in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. Really talented running back. And with CJ Anderson gone, we know he's going to get a lot of offensive snaps. His only real competition is Devontae Booker. And that kind of sounded like I'm saying that Devontae Booker is not really competition. No, it's legit competition. And Booker is probably going to be the starter week 1. I don't know, maybe not, maybe he is. But we know that both running backs will probably get some play here. The issue is that Freeman is being drafted in round 5. So I don't really see that much upside for him to absolutely crush that round 5 ADP in fantasy drafts. So let's say you draft him in round 5, then he pans out, and okay, you got 3rd round value at round 5. That's great, but I don't know. Not this year's Kamara though. One of my favorite rookies this year, and the one that I like probably the most as far as his ADP and whatnot, and the one with the most upside, is actually Ronald Jones, drafted by the Buccaneers. His ADP is late round 5, and I just think this guy is amazing, and he's going to absolutely crush it. He doesn't have much competition there with Doug Martin gone, so his only real true competition is Peyton Barber. Jacquizz Rodgers is there, but I think we all know that he's not like a franchise back. He's not a workhorse. He's not the back a team would be like, yeah, this is my RB1 and I'm proud of that. I'm going to roll with Jacquizz Rodgers for 16 games. And then we have Charles Sims, who's a good pass catching back. He's definitely not a 3-down back. So I see Rojo taking this job, getting nearly 20 carries a game. I really see him being good. He didn't make my top 4 just because his ADP isn't that low. He's being drafted round 5, and I think if he's healthy, he's fully recovered from the hamstring injury, and we watch him in preseason, then his ADP, I'm sure, is going to go up. I see this guy's ADP going up to round 3 eventually once we get closer to the regular season kickoff. And the moment you've all been waiting for, my top 4 2018 Alvin Kamaras. At number 4, I have Kalen Ballage of the Miami Dolphins, with Frank Gore there, who's still pretty good. Even though he's old, he's still decent. He's a running back that you can trust. Very smart running back, very good running back. And then we have Kenyon Drake, who's also really good. I don't see Ballage getting much run the first year as a rookie. At least wait for Gore to be out the picture. And Kalen Ballage, this is actually the guy who looks the most like Alvin Kamara, like if we were to compare it, but he is a poor man's Kamara. I don't really see him being that good this year. In dynasty leagues, if he slips a little bit, you definitely have to take him because of the long-term upside. But man, this year, I don't really see it happening. I see Frank Gore getting a few carries, and I see Kenyon Drake starting out as the starter and holding that job for a good amount of the season at the very least. Kalen Ballage has a very low ADP though, round 13, and gosh guys, I mean, we're really, as far as how he looks, he can catch the ball and all this stuff. I mean, this is an exact clone of what we saw in Alvin Kamara last year. And funny story is that every time I'm on YouTube, everyone's like, Kalen Ballage, he's so great, he scored 6 touchdowns in one game. Another guy's like, he scored 7 touchdowns in one game. Another guy's like, he scored 8. So I've looked it up, okay? It's easy to do the research. He actually has scored 8 touchdowns in one game in college. I think that was in 2016. Very impressive performance, by the way. Like, it's amazing. But those 8 touchdowns were a fourth of his total touchdowns. It seemed like almost all those touchdowns came in that one game. So the guy has upside, the guy has potential, but a 3-down back, maybe, probably not this year, and probably not going to put up tons of fantasy points this year. At number 3, we have Kerryon Johnson. He was drafted by the Detroit Lions. A lot of running backs in that backfield, including Zach Zenner, Amir Abdullah, and Dwayne Washington. Those 3 guys I see as a complete non-threat. Those guys are not good, and I just don't see them getting any run this year at all. I don't see them getting many offensive snaps. Now, the 2 guys that will get some snaps is Theo Riddick, a pretty decent 3rd-down back, pass-catching back, who's not going to get in the way too much. But then we have LeGarrette Blount, a guy that they went out and got during the offseason. We know the coach ties, the Patriots' former coach. I do see them using LeGarrette Blount quite a bit. So unless he gets traded away or something happens, I don't see Kerryon Johnson balling out that much. Now, I do like this guy, and I do see there is some upside this year. You know, I think of it on both sides, right? You gotta think of it the negative side and the good side, because there's always a bad that can happen. There's always a good that can happen. I don't know how he won't be the starter eventually, though, this year. And I see a situation kind of similar to the Eagles last year, where Blount was getting a good amount of run, but then there was Corey Clement. So I guess that could be like Theo Riddick, even though they're not the exact same type of back. I'm just, you know, throwing a comparison out there. 3-headed monster, if you will. So LeGarrette Blount, Ajayi, and Corey Clement last year on the Eagles. Could be a similar situation here on the Lions. And the Lions, guys, they've had a pretty bad offensive line, but this year they actually have a pretty good one. I really like the center they drafted, Ragnow. I think he also plays guard, so he might be playing guard. Don't quote me on that, or do quote me on that, whatever. But I really like the offensive lineman they drafted, Ragnow. They have a pretty good offensive line. I think I would say it's a top 10 offensive line. So Kerryon Johnson, I really do like it. I would have to compare him to Kareem Hunt, a poor man's Kareem Hunt, if I had to compare him to any player, any current NFL player. Like I said, I think he'll be good, but his ADP is not quite as low as Kalen Ballage's. I believe Kerryon Johnson is going around round 6 in fantasy drafts. At number 2, we have Jordan Wilkins. A lot of fantasy enthusiasts, you know, the nuts out there, the hardcore fantasy players, you know who I'm talking about. In drafts, they absolutely love this guy. His ADP is round 14, and I've been watching a little bit of film on him. He's a very well-rounded running back. He can pass block, he can catch, he can run, he can go inside, outside, he can do the whole thing, the whole package. But I don't think he can do anything great. So he does everything well, but not great. And I just don't see this guy having a huge year as a rookie. That brings me to my number 1 guy. And by the way, I think Wilkins, I could have ranked number 4, but you'll see why I ranked him number 2. Because his teammate, Nyheim Hines, is the number 1 most likely to be this year's Alvin Kamara. This guy's comparable to CJ Spiller. Man, is he fast. Man, can he catch like a wide receiver? Is he explosive? Can he cut on a dime? This guy is amazing. I've here before. It's just, I don't know about that guy. So the only competition is Marlon Mack, and people are drafting Marlon Mack in round 6. I think that's ludicrous. People just think Marlon Mack's going to be the starting running back. He sucks. Okay, he had some chances last year and he was wildly inconsistent. He's not good. Marlon Mack is not that good. These other two guys, I think Wilkins right now, before we even see him in a Colts uniform, I think Wilkins is more reliable and will be more consistent than Marlon Mack. I think Nyheim Hines has way more upside, is just straight up way better than Marlon Mack. So I would be avoiding Marlon Mack at all costs in fantasy football. And I almost forgot 2 bonus players for those of you that are in deep leagues, for those of you that are in dynasty leagues, and for those of you who are addicted to best ball leagues. I have 2 bonus players that I absolutely had to mention. Actually, I stopped filming the video, I went to edit it, and I totally forgot to mention these two players, but I really wanted to, so I came back and I'm doing that right now. Boston Scott is an undersized, undervalued running back that the Saints took in round 6. Probably because he's so small. He's about 5'7", 200 pounds. That's why he probably went so late in the draft, and also because there's so many running backs in the draft, so many rookie running backs last year, and just so many great talent at that position in the NFL right now. All right, peep this. Mark Ingram's contract is coming up here. This is his last year. He just got suspended 4 games, and not only does the suspension mean he's gonna miss 4 games, but it also doesn't instill more trust in the organization. Like, oh, this guy just got suspended 4 games. Let's give him $50 million. It doesn't really work that way. So this may very well be Mark Ingram's last year. And we all know, or we all kind of joke around in the fantasy circles, that Sean Payton hates Mark Ingram. And even if he doesn't, he never trusted him to be the workhorse for an entire year. Fantasy owners were always like, this is going to be the year. Mark Ingram is going to be a 3-down back, get 20 plus carries every game, and he's not going to get injured. It's just didn't really pan out, and a lot of fantasy owners hate Sean Payton. So why would that change all of a sudden now, and you really think they're going to give Mark Ingram a ton of money? So with Mark Ingram out, Boston Scott's going to get a lot of run. And in these first 4 games of the season, we're going to see a lot of Boston Scott. When I say this guy's good, I mean he is really good, and the only concern is his size. So let's see how that pans out. We're gonna see a little bit of a showcase in the beginning, and hey, that might give the Saints even more reason not to re-sign Mark Ingram. So just to be clear, I would not draft this guy in any type of 10-team league or 12-team league, except if it's dynasty. And in redraft formats, it probably would have to be like a 16-team league for me to consider this guy, or deeper. Another running back I absolutely love is Josh Adams. He went undrafted, and now he's on the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, so Darren Sproles, he's definitely gonna retire this year. It's his last year. Jay Ajayi, last year of his contract, he has like something, his knees or something, like the knees like has like no cartilage, or his knees can go out any second. I don't know. There's something with his knees to where it's a concern, and I just don't see the Eagles signing Jay Ajayi. I think this is likely his last year. And then there's Smallwood, who's not really good. Then there's a guy named like Humphrey Dumpty something. He's not good. He's probably going to get cut this year. So if Josh Adams can stay on the roster and prove himself a little bit this year and be on the roster next year, I think he's going to be really good. There's going to be very little to no opportunities for Adams this year unless something happens to Jay Ajayi. So that's why he's more of a late round dynasty type of pick. And I probably wouldn't pick him in any league unless it's like 16-man or deeper. But man, I'm telling you, this guy is really good. One of the knocks on him, like he's not perfect, obviously. He went undrafted. But I thought he would get drafted in around round 5 or probably 6. But hey, he didn't even get drafted in round 7. So one of the knocks with him is that he had offensive line blocking for him that was basically the best in college football. But I've been watching a lot of film on him, and although he's not really good when he touches the ball behind the line of scrimmage, I still really like this running back. To me, it's a bit puzzling why he didn't get drafted in round 6. Probably because there are so many running backs in this draft. This is one of the drafts, I can't even remember another draft with so much talent at the running back position. Let me know, guys. Leave a comment below who you think this year's Alvin Kamara is, or any type of running back that's young or rookie. I'd like to know your opinion. Any of the guys I talked about, give me some feedback. Let me know if I was way off, if you agree with me, or who you think's gonna break out this year at the running back position. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If you disliked it, go ahead and leave a thumbs down. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn the notifications on so you don't miss anything. It's this couch icon right over here. We got a lot of other great videos like the Joe Mixon one, the Dez Bryant one, lots of drafts, so check them out. Binge watch Fantasy Couch if you have a minute or two. I'd really appreciate it. See you on the next video.